Well, we've reached in our studies chapter 7 of Ecclesiastes. Our pleasure-seeking but dissatisfied age is desperate to discover life's true meaning. Life is a paradox. We're not always sure which end is up. Now, Solomon made his choices. He suffered heartbreak, he paid the price, and he lived to tell the tale. He was, in effect, saying, think. Don't get caught up in the greener grass myth. All that you need, all that can give you joy is on the other side of the fence. Follow the wisdom from above. Chapter 7 tells us that wisdom can make life better. In fact, the word is used 11 times just in the 7th chapter. The opening statement is that a person's good name, in Hebrew Shem, is like a fragrant perfume, Shemen. The Living Bible in chapter 7 verse 2 puts it this way: it is better to spend your time at funerals than at festivals. For you are going to die, and it is a good thing to think about it while there is still time. You know, if you think of going for a fortnight's holiday, and in preparation you look through a brochure, check out hotels, consult TripAdvisor, you'll check the flights, the currency, etc., but there's no thought or preparation so often regarding man's final destination. It seems that fools are happy to be entertained to death instead of staring death in the face and being spurred on to lay hold of life. In chapter 7, verse 13, we're considering God's providence. That is, his supervision of all creation, ensuring that all his plans work out. It means that things will come to pass in our lives that only he understands. The Living Bible paraphrases it, see the way God does things and fall into line. Don't fight the facts of nature. God's plan is good and his purpose is clear, but his program is mysterious. We walk by faith and not by sight. Chapter 7, verse 15, in this silly life I have seen everything, including the fact that some of the good die young and some of the wicked live on and on. And here's the writer, King Solomon, really puzzled with the things that life throws at him. I remember as a teenager the science lesson. I was never very good at science at all. And there would be the theory, all the talk about what it would be like. And then, perhaps more exciting, we would go into the lab to experiment. And that's exactly what Solomon has done with life. He's decided to find out what gives satisfaction and enjoyment in life. But he sees life through disillusioned eyes. He's left God out of the picture. When we're glum, we can lose our perspective. We can have a jaundiced outlook on life. Maybe you're empty on the inside and you're faking it on the outside. And Solomon was quite like that. He'd phased God out of the picture and was still trying to get the results from life that only God can give. His next experiment concerned morality. Perhaps if I am a do-gooder, what about a middle-of-the-road lifestyle? The moralist blocks the way to God because the moralist is saying, live like I do, I live without God, I just do good. Now, that's not God's viewpoint, nor is it a Christian viewpoint. Solomon is speaking of life apart from God, life under the sun. He says, it seems good to me, but this is a humanistic approach to life. His experiment, how to be happy without God. Although Solomon's conclusions are not inspired, the scripture that tells us about them is inspired. For instance, chapter 7, verse 16 to 18. Do not be over-righteous, neither be over-wise. Why destroy yourself? Do not be over-wicked, and do not be a fool. Why die before your time? It is good to grasp the one and not let go of the other. The man who fears God will avoid all extremes. Now, that's in the Bible. It's the way Solomon thought, but it's quite cynical. It's worldly wisdom. God would never say we were overdoing real goodness, nor would God ever advise a little wickedness just to spice up life. Some have wondered whether this book, Ecclesiastes, should even be in the Bible. Solomon is so painfully honest in his evaluation of life. This is a man with a cynical eye, and cynicism mentally confuses us. It numbs us spiritually. Life's not fair. People don't take turns, share or play nice. Life's not right. Wrestling with reality, he is fed up with injustice. I remember reading the book by Rabbi Harold Kushner, When Bad Things Happen to Good People. And in it he writes, life is not fair. The wrong people get sick, and the wrong people get robbed, and the wrong people get killed in wars and in accidents. Some people see life's unfairness and decide there is no God. The world is nothing but chaos. But Rabbi Kushner is looking through the eyes of a grieving father. The death of his own son prompted the book. From that perspective, he reaches certain conclusions. And his conclusion is that God just started things going and then didn't get involved at all. But that's not what the Christian teaches. In chapter 10, verse 7, the NIV says, I have seen slaves on horseback, while princes go on foot like slaves. Or the Message puts it, I have seen unproven upstarts riding in style, while experienced veterans are put out to pasture. It's not meant to be like this. Something's wrong. It's not fair. And Solomon is struggling with this paradox. It's a riddle. It's an enigma. How on earth do you put colour into a life that is grim? Do you decide to have more children? Do you decide to take on more wives? Do you work longer hours? Is it more education that's needed? If only I had a brighter mind. No, it won't work. Now, something happens in Ecclesiastes in chapters 7 through to 12, because the word wise and the word wisdom appear almost 35 times in the latter part of Solomon's journal. Solomon seems to have lost interest in the silly side of life, where everything's a big laugh. He's coming back home. Most of us have travelled down a road of futility and experienced self-inflicted pain and heartache. We've all learned some lessons the hard way. Our years may be few, but they needn't be futile. In chapter 8, verse 1, we read, "Wisdom brightens a man's face and changes its hard appearance." Literally, that is, a man's wisdom illumines him and causes his stern face to beam. And listen to these wise words, also from chapter 8, verses 12 and 13. "Although a wicked man commits 100 crimes and still lives a long time, I know that it will go better with God-fearing men who are reverent before God. Yet because the wicked do not fear God, it will not go well with them, and their days will not lengthen like a shadow." So far, all his observations have lacked the vertical perspective, and therefore his conclusions are humanistic. But it's when he gets a vertical perspective that God begins to break into the picture. Here is chapter 8, verses 16 and 17. "When I applied my mind to know wisdom and to observe man's labour on earth, his eyes not seeing sleep day or night, then I saw all that God has done. No one can comprehend what goes on under the sun. Despite all his efforts to search it out, man cannot discover its meaning. Even if a wise man claims he knows, he cannot really comprehend it. God's mysteries defy human explanation. God is sovereign. We struggle with many mysteries." Chapter 8, verse 14, "Righteous men who get what the wicked deserve, and wicked men who get what the righteous deserve." It's not fair.